Hey, this is Jeff Gerstmann, and when I'm looking for a podcast about video games and energy drinks, I turn to the VGC podcast. Congratulations on 100 episodes. Does that sound too announcery? Sound like an asshole, but that's, I don't know, that's the way these drops are supposed to sound, right?
For the war, against the war, who cares? 100 episodes. It's VGC, the video game podcast, with me, Jordan Riddler, Chris Scullion, and Andy Robinson. This week, we're bigger, longer, and uncut to celebrate a century of nonsense. But first, how's it going, folks? Chris Scullion, thank you for joining me on this momentous occasion.
Oh, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I finally, even to mark the 100th episode, I actually get the reference as well for the first time, which is nice. A wee South Park reference to start off with. We're hoping this lasts, this podcast, and that one of us doesn't get a power cut, because we're currently in the biggest storm the planet has ever seen, as you can tell by the slightly blowing hedge behind my back garden.
Someone's bins away.
If you see at some point someone's just going to slam against that window and scream, "Help me!" But for now, I think we're okay. It's meant to get worse in a couple of hours though, so we'll see.
Speaking of getting worse before it gets better, Andy Robinson, how are you?
Hello. All right.
Good.
Yeah. No wind here, mate.
No.
You need to live in a proper place.
Oh yeah.
It started already. Get the brass.
First thing I did when I was walking around looking for a house, I surveyed the wind. Just not sure about the knots in this area. Yeah. No, darling, the deal's off. But we've already unpacked our things. No.
He's bought 7 houses, but here's one battle win, and he's like, no, I'm not.
I felt a breeze. Standing in the garden with a sock on a stick.
I'm there with a kite. If it elevates at all.
Yeah, I'm having fun, but I'm disappointed.
Mr. Robinson, the paperwork's ready. Hold on.
The emergency alarm system was used in Scotland for the first time since COVID last night.
Yeah.
And it was such a hilarious experience of everyone's phone going off and then everyone texting each other going, "Did you get that? Did you get that? Did you get that?" It's just not designed for everyone's phone to go at the same time.
They do it in Japan. We had it in. It's scary as hell. They do the fake one in Japan. They could have chose a less like Silent Hill siren.
Yeah.
Right?
Hello.
Like,
warning. So Jesus.
My partner hates it.
falling out the bath.
My alarm in the morning is like, so every morning I wake up as if there's a nuke going off because it gets me jolted, and I'm like, right, great. Because if it's a little marimba rhythm, I'm like, I can go back to sleep with this. This is fine. But honestly, you could have sent that to one person in Scotland, and the gossip would have got around quickly enough. Every auntie and uncle you've ever had going, "Do you get that?" Also, morons on TikTok I saw being like, "Oh, I'm not sure about this. This feels like it's preparing us for something else. Could this be them preparing us for air raid sirens for World War III?" And it's like, mate, this has been a thing since 2020 at the least. And
everyone has to have the secret explanation these days, don't they?
All in the money. Just think about it and you'll be fine.
Could it really be the 100th VGC podcast?
It's actually
maybe they just added some on.
Honestly, it's probably like the 150th with all the bonus. And
that was my worry, was did someone actually count these? Because I'm sure we've done like a few like E3 specials and stuff, or whatever the kids you do nowadays instead of E3.
You've done it. You've literally just you've encouraged people to count the podcasts.
As long as you do that, that's pure money.
Listen, if it's not the 100th, then that just sums us up. That's our USP, is how like badly organised it is. so if anything, it's characteristic.
No, I made sure this is the 100th weekly episode of the podcast. Honestly, I was like, when I was counting up, I was really hoping it'd be like next week or the following, because it's been a busy old time, and I was like, when is there going to be a moment when we're all together? But we managed it. Last week was obviously the Switch 2 extravaganza. Any other news story from last week just get thrown to the wind. We did an hour on Switch 2, and then on patreon.com/videogameschronicle, me and Chris did a further 45 minutes on Switch 2, where we got down to things such as the paint on the inside of the Switch 2, David Lynch dying mid-podcast. That was a real, the ultimate God rest him. Yeah. Chris, I wanted to ask you on there, would you rather I'd not told you that during the podcast, or was it worth it for the content?
Listen, I live and die for content, so
Yeah.
no, yeah, it was a sore one to take because he's a hero, but that was an interesting
You
one.
went to school with him?
I did. I mean, Dave, Big Dave, we used to call him. That was a tough one, but no, it was better to be marked online rather than just kind of It's what it is, what it is, isn't it?
I've said this before, but I'll tell you now, if I die during a podcast recording I want it aired, I will go out for the content. Think of the views you'd get on that. It's much like when Paul Bearer died and his family was like, yeah, you can use these ashes in a storyline with CM Punk. That's kayfabe. That's the business we're in.
Yeah.
So when I'm gone, put me in that year's VGC afterlife. I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Just papped out by Yokozuna.
God rest him.
Last week, as you may have noticed from the Mankey Porn Star Hotel I was in Las Vegas, Nevada, the city of sin. First time I've ever been to Vegas. I was there for about 2.5 days, and let me tell you something, brother. It's one thing to see the videos of old people sitting at the slot machines going, and just slamming their retirement away on these big screens. But see, seeing it in person with a whiff of smoke, because you can smoke the bifters in the casinos. I thought that this is a life for me. When I retire, if I've not died on this podcast, I'm going straight there, because that's woman was smoking a fag, had a double vodka and coke, and was hitting it with her elbow, and she was just playing the 10-cent ones, so it was just going forever. That would be her for the rest of her
That's
days.
the American equivalent of those 2p machines where the coins go backwards and forwards. It's just like but like
a shove halfpenny, as my grand
exactly.
How long did you stay there?
I was there I landed 2.5 days basically, 2 full days.
See, that's just enough.
Yeah.
You go to Las Vegas for a week, like for CES or something. It's honestly the most miserable I've ever been.
Yeah.
You just want some vegetables. You want to know what time of day it is. You want to leave the air conditioning. You want to listen to some music that isn't hip hop. Well, that ages my trip somewhat though. I remember I must have gone like 2008, something like that. Last time I went, and I remember asking the concierge on the hotel, "Are there any bars or clubs here that play anything that isn't hip hop?" And he just said no. Because America hadn't discovered EDM at that point, or invented it, I should say.
Yeah. It was weird because on the last day before we left, we went and walked up and down the strip. And first of all, it's a horrible place for pedestrians because there's like a 15-car highway in the middle of the strip. So everyone's walking down these wee little streets, and they've had to build pedestrian like overpasses so you can get across the roads, and it's just full of fat Americans with massive slushes absolutely off their faces at 12 in the morning. And I'm like, I can see how this would be fun. See if you weren't spending your own money and you were just going from casino to casino, chucking a bit of money here, chucking a bit of money there. It could be a laugh, but it's all so homogenized. It might as well be one big resort, because every casino's got the exact same games. It's all the same slot machines and stuff. Even the airport's got slot machines. Everywhere sells the same drinks and all that. And it just depends what weird themed hotel you stay in. I stayed in the Luxor because I'm a fan of Egypt.
I stayed in the Paris. Hell on earth.
Yeah.
Just where are you staying, mate? In the big Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
With the blue skies painted on the inside.
At least you weren't in actual France. Like, the only thing that could be worse than
True,
fake
correct.
France.
We don't have any French listeners.
Well, we've insulted the Americans.
Apart from Nicolas Dusson. We love you.
We've insulted the
What a guy.
Americans. We've insulted the French. I think our plan to make this our 100th and final episode is going well so far.
Yeah.
Well, so Andy insulted the Scots at the start, so we'll get there. We'll get everyone ticked off by the end of the show, I would imagine.
Moving on. I've got a surprise for you.
Oh, shit. Here we go.
Andy's reviewing an energy drink, and Andy Robinson energy drink review. What is it? Will you introduce it to us first? What is it?
It's a Norwegian energy drink called Fully Charged. I see. No. Hold on. It's Battery. It's called
Battery is the brand.
Battery.
So this is a sub brand of Battery, which probably you've got to admire the transparency. It probably just tastes like batteries.
I know it will taste like battery acid.
Apparently, it's lemon yuzu flavour. And it probably does have an inspirational blurb, but it's in Norwegian. So you've got no chance.
I think you've just got to get it.
It's got a little like battery sign on the what is that called?
That's dedication on the ring pull.
On the ring pull, yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, ring pull. He's taking a drink. He's imbibing.
That's really nice.
Oh.
It tastes like a gin and tonic or something.
That's
it's got a little bit. I did try an original battery when I was there this week, and it tasted
just
a little
like in
bit like,
yeah.
Like when you lick a Nintendo Switch card.
Just like that.
Yeah, imagine they just melted down Nintendo Switch cartridges into a nectar. That's what battery tastes like.
So you took a gamble buying a second one that sounds like it's paid off. That's good.
This is actually really good.
That's the thing that I've had that when I was in
sponsor us.
When I've tried to get energy drink sponsorships. They are
Have you tried battery though? Have you tried battery? We need to start looking Norway wide.
I couldn't believe that. I'm not going to name the brand, but I laid out a very clear pitch document as to why we are the premier podcast to be sponsored by an energy drink. No fucking interest whatsoever.
Gives you wings, do you? You pricks.
Even West Ham United is sponsored by Red Bull.
Yeah, I know.
Any old Charlotte.
We couldn't even get Carabao. Carabao sponsor anything.
I may have the most pretentious energy drink that I've ever embraced for this thing.
Go on.
I saw this in Asda last night, so I'm assuming it's hot off the presses because it was in the wee kind of front. Get a look at this new shit.
It's not a battery, is it?
It's not. It is.
It was at the midnight release for it.
It is Tenzing Natural Energy, presumably named after Sherpa Tenzing, who led Sir Edmund Hillary to the top of Mount Everest in the 50s, I would imagine. Hence the picture of the mountain.
Have you read the blurb already?
hey, it's all in here. That's the blurb.
That's just a PR sentence.
It claims to be pineapple and passion fruit flavour, and the blurb is like half the can at the top. It explains every ingredient, which is wholly unnecessary. It says it lists them, and it says at the top, our powerful ingredients from nature. Thanks very much. Yeah. So it's got caffeine from green coffee, L-theanine from green tea, vitamin C from fruit juice, electrolytes from Himalayan rock salt, BCAA from corn, 100% plant-based.
That's not corn.
And it's got beet sugar and fruit sugar in it. That's their sugar alternatives. All the energy without the crash. Life's too good for bad energy. That's the claim of the fine people.
What they say. That's what the tattoo says.
So we'll see.
I feel like I've seen another flavour of Tenzing in W.H. Smith at the airport.
There's a second flavour of raspberry or something, but I'm a pineapple fan, so I'm concerned. You know, when they list ingredients in the back of a thing, it's in order of potency, and it's literally sparkling water, beet sugar. So like, as in sugar from beets, not like beetles of. There's a fruity bouquet. Like it smells nice, but we'll soon see.
I have an energy drink story after Chris is imbibed here. His
brows
already
smells as well.
Furrowed. Chris, this is dead. Let's speak. Tell us.
I don't know about that at all. Like there's a pineapple flavour to it, but it's the aftertaste like it's dry in my mouth.
Famous Himalayan fruit pineapple.
I think Sherpa Tenzing would be rolling down a hill at the idea of his name.
It would be sprinting up the mountain.
Exactly. Spinning in Everest. He didn't die in Everest though, didn't he? No, he lived a long life, I believe.
Well, why do you ask yourself? A special guest.
He's here tonight.
Here he is, surprise.
He just turns up as I'm actually alive and well.
He's just outside next to your bush.
He died in May 1986, so
God rest him.
Good innings.
I have G Fuel Glitch Mix Strawberry Guava Coconut, sponsored by Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, exclusively in theaters. A film from about 3 years ago. Which
I'll be out of date.
I cracked this earlier. It has game-changing energy, focus, endurance, immunity, presumably diplomatic.
That's legally actionable.
And it's got mood. It can fuel my gaming, fitness, work lifestyle, which is the 4 pillars of my life.
Did you get that in Vegas?
No, I got this in Johnston.
I was going to say, if it's promising immunity, if you drink that in Vegas and then just step into the 15-car highway, I think you'd have a lawsuit in your hands there.
It's quite nice, but the problem is it's the strawberry, guava, and coconut. It's got a lot going on.
That doesn't work. That's not a combination.
Yeah. It tastes like a melted cocktail or something like that. It's okay, but you couldn't drink more than one of them unless you're an absolute maniac.
That's like the worst food combination I ever had was when I was at high school once, and it was school dinners, and it was sadly not a piece and shite. It was a high school dinner. This is Coatbridge, so we're talking high quality food stuff here. Fish and chips for lunch. And they gave you a wee clump of ice cream as well, like in a wee corner of your tray. So there was one of these trays that had separate things. Wee clump of ice cream.
This is pre-Jamie Oliver. You never get that mad day.
Oh, definitely not. And they were giving out. They were optional pickled onions because that's how we rolled.
Yeah.
I says, "Can I get a pickled onion, please?" She took it and put it in the ice cream. So I basically ended up with vinegary ice cream, which I can assure you is not a taste sensation.
Pickled onion ice cream sounds like something that Chris Broad would eat in a video and tell you it's actually a delicacy over in Japan. Pickled ice cream.
80,000 yen for a single scoop. But yeah, so
a better impression than I, an Englishman, could have done. It's like I was in the room with him.
But,
and he's here today.
He's actually standing behind me. Let me in, please. The wind's really bad.
Nah, I mean, I love Chris Broad, but if we're going to get a special guest from the Abroad in Japan universe, getting Natsuki on the pod, that's all I want.
No, just need Pete Donaldson, mate. It's all we need. That's enough.
Pete Donaldson's too big for us these days. He's got things to do. He's got successful podcasts to be on. None of this shit. Speaking of energy drinks in Vegas, I land in Vegas, as one does. I go to the little convenience store in the hotel. I'm like, I'll get some drinks. I'll rehydrate myself. I get 3 rock stars and 1 big bottle of Mountain Dew. It was £25. £25, and I'm like, you know, one of those things where they tell you the price, and you're like, well, I better just pay this. I can't. I'm sure my face portrayed the absolute horror that I was feeling, but I paid it, and I'm like, surely something's went wrong. Like, I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm like, is this Mountain Dew made out of like solid gold? Like, what's happening? On the last day, I go into a separate convenience store in the hotel because there's 2, and I think, oh, maybe I just got the posh one. I buy 1 Rockstar, go up, and the woman goes, "That's $7.50." And I'm like, $7.50 for 1 Rockstar? And again, I pay it because I'm a mug and I'm not having confrontation with Americans, so probably shoot me. And then, so I buy it. Thankfully, I go over to the Walgreens, which was a mile away, because they keep the cheap convenience stores away from the hotels, so you have to spend money in the hotels. That's another one of their dastardly tricks. And it was like $3 in there, which is okay. It's like, works out like £2 or whatever. But I felt sick to my stomach. Also, bloody bellhop, they were like, do you want to drop your bags here? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, I'll drop my bags. And they're like, oh yeah, if you want to drop bags with valuables in it, we charge like $25 an hour. I'm like, mate, it's a backpack. What you $25 an hour? What are you doing? You're just putting it in a room.
There's nothing valuable in it.
Yeah, there's hee-haw. There's actually a bomb in this.
There's $3 energy drinks in it.
It's like the connotation of that is like, if you don't pay it, then you're saying we can rob it.
Yeah. We're just going to kick the absolute shit out of your life. As soon as you give me your bag and you tell me the value, that'll determine how hard we boot it into the sky. Yeah. It was a weird place. It was also full of people coming up to you and trying to give you like bracelets and stuff like that. Put them on your. They go off free.
Oh, that's the trick, and then they make you pay for it. I get that in New York once, where a guy came over and says, "Hey, you like rap music?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And he brings out one of his CDs and asks what your name is, and then writes your name on the CD. And at that point, you're like, no. Oh man, I wrote your name on this. I didn't ask you to. And like, probably
I gave you a fake name, mate.
I know, exactly. I know. I'm not Susan Jones, so can I help you? So that was, I hate that. I there should be action taken on such people.
I mean, it's not legal, but the police can't be bothered doing anything. Who cares? That CD thing almost got me when I was in New York when I was like 16, but my father saw that it was about to happen and just like double hands at my back pushed me away from them, and then that was it. One of the highlights of my professional career was when I was in New York in March of 2020, which you may remember was the kickoff to a small event. In the 2 days of holiday that we got before said small event, me, my pal Hannah, and my pal Caitlin were walking around, and they got stopped by the tourist catchers, and I didn't. I was like, I must look like a genuine New Yorker. Like, this guy's for the Bronx. This guy's got no interest in our scams, which I felt fantastic about. That was also about a week before I shaved my head, so I had like it was going on top, but I had like this long. You ever see pictures of a young George Lucas when he has like a baseball cap on and he has like this weird mullet going on? I had that, and I was like, "This is great." I'm a Scottish man in New York, and then we were on I think I've told this in the podcast, but we were in the Broadway store having. We saw one show the first night, and we had tickets for each of the remaining nights to all these big shows that we're desperate to see. In the Broadway show in the shop, and we hear this guy talking to someone going, "This is the first time this has happened since 9/11," and you don't want to hear that in New York.
No,
the
not
first
in New York.
time since 9/11. You're like, "Oh God, what are we doing here?" Broadway completely shut down. Shut down. I was meant to go and see
George Lucas is here.
Yeah. Shut down Broadway. There's a little global pandemic. I was meant to see Mean Girls with Renee Rapp, who I love, and one Sabrina Carpenter, all of her current fame. You watched that Sabrina Carpenter thing, didn't you, Chris? You told me.
It was fine. It was fine. I'm as a 41-year-old man, I'm not usually clued up on all the kind of modern hipster stuff. But I understand Sabrina Carpenter's quite famous among the kids these days. So yeah, I decided to watch our Netflix special and see what the deal is. It was fine. It was entertaining enough. I can see how
I recommended her to the guy in charge of Space Channel 5 at Sega.
Oh, really?
Said you should cast it because they're doing it's either a TV show or a movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's good casting.
That is good casting.
I
can see how
on TikTok of another artist, Kim Petras, dressed up as Ooh La La, and it was like absolutely perfect cosplay, like with all the gear.
I can see her appeal. I can see how like 14, 15-year-old girls would love her, and I can see how their dads would willingly sit and watch stuff with her in it. So it's one of those kind of like situations where, in terms of marketing, she kind of hits numerous demographics. So it is entertaining enough. It was harmless enough.
Yeah, more of a chaperone, man. Don't chaperone. That's another hour on this podcast. If you'd like more podcasts,
do you know that Joe Chaperone's the Catholic version of Charlotte Church?
You've told that joke on this podcast.
It's still funny. It's still funny. I thought this was the best, a greatest hits, is it not?
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Charlotte Church. She'll be joining us on the extended version of this podcast.
You fucking what?
She once, speaking of David Lynch,
Patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle for extra podcast. But Chris, we've got all day. We'll get to David Lynch.
No, but it's a Charlotte Church thing. In a live show once, she sang the theme from Twin Peaks, but just like the entire time. That was her like thing. So she was singing like it's so weird. It's her just going like ages. Fair play, Charlotte Church. She's
some chanter.
She's some chanter. She's got a rare voice, and she's not scared of what people think of her when she performs. So fair play to her.
Should we
talk about games? It's been like 25 minutes.
File this under reasons not to live on this planet anymore. Sony has cancelled 2 more live service games, reportedly including a God of War title. Bloomberg's Jason Schreier reports that Sony cancelled live service games in development at Bend Studios and Bluepoint Games. This was confirmed by a Sony spokesperson. Schreier doesn't describe the games in detail, but he confirmed that Bluepoint was working on a live service God of War title, and a spokesperson from Sony confirmed that both games had been cancelled following a recent review, but stressed that neither studio would be closed as a result of the cancellation. Chris Scullion,
Hello.
what on earth are they doing right now?
They're making an arse of it, basically.
They really are.
How they've obviously quadrupled down on live service a couple of years ago, deciding this was the future, and then I'm sure Helldivers made them think, "Well, we're doing it. This is it." And then Concord has completely upended all their plans, and now they're worried. Like, do we risk more of these live service games ending up like Concord, or do we just pull the Band-Aid off, as the kids say in America, and just kind of cut our losses now instead of firing more money into something that's probably not going to do that well?
Maybe Jim Ryan knew he was getting binned and just pulled the pin out the grenade and went, "Ha ha, live service," threw that and then chucked it. I can't believe this. I was talking to someone around Game Awards time, and we were talking about what places were doing, and he said they mentioned Bluepoint, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I heard that they were working on like a weird God of War multiplayer thing." And when they said that, I was like, that can't possibly be true. That sounds absolutely ridiculous. A God of War multiplayer thing from Bluepoint, makers of two of the best remakes of all time in Shadow of the Colossus and Demon's Souls. Andy, this seems like Concord has saved PlayStation from making an absolute arse of itself, and it really has to right the ship.
Well, I you know, look, the market has obviously like changed quite significantly in the last 18 months, 2 years, but it's just really obvious now that you're seeing stuff of like Concord scale come out and flop. And what was the other massive flop last year? I can't remember. What, Suicide Squad's?
God rest it.
I'm sure.
God rest it.
But basically, like, we're at the point now where these big, if you're a big AAA monster and you're spending, tens of hundreds or hundreds of millions making these games, you basically look at what worked previously and you make a game within that mold. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the market now, the games that are succeeding are the ones that offer something unique. The games that are samey, and not really offering something new are the ones that are flopping hard.
Yeah.
So it's a bit difficult to steer the Titanic, right? When you're already set, and maybe they looked at these and within that mindset and thought, these are they might be. I mean, Concord was pretty good from what I understand, right? You played Concord. It was not a bad game.
The game part was totally fine. It was everything else about it that was shite. Like,
as far as I know, Suicide Squad was not a bad game. Yeah. It's a pretty good. I mean, the thing is, it's like for anyone who's like over bloody 30, 35, right? Me and Chris, we remember games when they were actually bad. Like, there's a high bar now. Like, every game looks pretty good. Every game is playable. The definition of bad now is not the definition that we had, when we're playing Superman 64 and Rise of the Robots and stuff like that. It's just atrocious stuff. Maybe it's been a wake up for them in that sense that, look, these games are probably going to be good, but are they going to get people to stop playing Fortnite and Warzone and Marvel Rivals, etc. Like, I mean, we've said again and again on this podcast that it's the same 20 games that half of the audience is playing. It's taking up all of the hours, and that's what you need to do now. I mean, fingers crossed. They're looking at Team Asobi and saying, well, what we need to do is we need to get more incubation teams into all of these studios instead of putting all your money into that. They could be making smaller AA games that are brilliant, and that's I think what we would all like to see.
I hope this is the start of the kind of the turnaround, because like you saw, like Doom: The Dark Ages was showing yesterday.
We'll talk about that later. What a game,
Xbox's Developer Direct, which I notice isn't as famous anti-Xbox. Jordan Midler hasn't actually added the Xbox show last night to the run of the show on here. I noticed.
We're talking about news on this podcast,
but they mentioned that Doom: The Dark Ages is single player only, because they gave some spin about how we want to focus on the single player experience. It's like, no, it's because she's tried live service with the last one, and nobody was interested because, like we say, like there are too many games. As we've been saying, like Andy says, like countless times, like you've only got, everyone's got 2 or 3 games, live games they can commit to, and that's it. You'll play Doom Eternal before and say this is great, and then when you finish Doom Eternal, the live service stuff's there, and you're like, nah, you're all right. I've beaten it. I'm moving on. I don't need it for Doom.
I can't imagine going back to like mind in the late 360 era when everyone was chucking multiplayer like parts of their game into it, and you're just like, this is just like Assassin's Creed had multiplayer, all this random stuff. I would get the game, and obviously this was when I was buying a game, completing it as quick as possible, and trading it in to get the next one every single week kind of thing. And I'd play the multiplayer for like a little while and just never think about it again. But it seems impossible to imagine a game coming out and just having a random tacked on multiplayer section now, considering how expensive it is to just make the single player part. Like, I was in that Doom presentation you referenced, and when someone asked about the multiplayer, I was like, oh yeah, those Doom games had multiplayer in them. Like, I don't even remotely think about it. This was it's weird news because Sony's obviously in such a pivot. I feel terrible for the people currently working on Fair Game, that Jade Raymond thing. That just seems, unless that is the best in class.
Mark Cerny's been involved in that, hasn't he? So maybe they've got a little bit more invested than the others. These cancellations you're seeing here, obviously, these studios haven't been closed. Bluepoint and Bend. So presumably that's not their whole thing, right? They got other stuff going on. I think Bluepoint has got something else going on. Whereas Fair Game, that's probably that is Haven's game, right? You close the studio. I just think it's really. I'll tell you one unique thing. I bet you find this as well. Like these days that I've never had in my career. You go on a press trip, like I went on a press trip this week, and you play a game, and you're like, yeah, this is pretty good. I'm really enjoying this. And you sit and play it for hours, but you still have no idea whether it's going to be if it's going to be closed in 6 months. It means nothing. You know, the quality's like, or it feels like that. Like, this is a good game, but that's not good enough, right? I mean, I famously thought Foam Star was brilliant. Like, I really enjoyed it. But it's still like, we were all saying at the time going, but there's still like, you still don't have a clue. Is this going to resonate with an audience? Is it not going to resonate with an audience? The quality of the game is almost like disconnected from that.
I've been on multiple trips for VGC where the game has like been really fun in a press environment, and then I went on a Concord press trip where we played it in PlayStation's office with like full teams, and it was great fun. Even then, we were having conversations, me and the lovely Chris Tapso, friend of the show, Andy's best mate. Wishes both me and Chris were actually Chris Tapso.
He doesn't listen, don't worry.
No, of course not. He's the football manager to play. We were saying, it seems like a really good game, but where does this fit? Like,
but that's a real thing, by the way, that more people should talk about. That a lot of these types of games are more suitable to being in the room with 3 other guys. Like they're more fun in a press environment where someone set up a load of TVs. And when you're playing with a 13-year-old who's calling you slurs, you know, who you've just randomly been matched with, or people who are not talking, it's not the same experience. The one I always refer to is Evolve. Remember Evolve?
Evolve.
E3 Game of the Show. What was that, 2014? It was the Game of the Show. And then it came out and everyone it didn't like it. Because it was really fun when you were there playing with guys in a room, but less so when you weren't.
It's almost an extension of like the phenomena of back in the day when people would try plastic instrument games at other people's houses with like a full band playing rock band. And like, this is magic, I'm going to get this. And then you get it yourself. And for some people, they're just like, this isn't the same as when you're like at a party and drinking. Obviously for psychos like me, I was like, okay, through the fire and flames on expert. But
It has to stop though. The cycle has to stop because it's getting like in cannon fodder in the Amiga when you get your soldiers and when your soldier dies. Yeah. Everyone knows this reference. When at the start of each level, before you start a level in cannon fodder, your new recruits walk down a big hill. They walk around the path around a big giant empty hill, and when your guys die in cannon fodder, more guys come in. For the next level, and their gravestones are now on the hill. So the worse you are at the game, the more the hill fills with gravestones as you play. It's turning into that because like and the rate that they're dropping off is increasing as well. So like I'm submitting the VGC book to the publishers this week. We've already had to drop the Concord review from it. We've already had to drop the X Defiant review from it because like those games don't exist. My kid sleeps in a hyenas blanket that we were sent before Hyenas was scrapped.
My kids love
that's an amazing blanket. That's the best thing Sega ever made.
I almost did a picture, right? And then I thought it was in bad taste. I almost did like a social media selfie with all the stuff, the games that didn't come out that I've got, like the Hyenas, like in your Hyenas blanket with your what was the Amazon Live Hero Shooter?
Yeah, holding your Stadia controller.
It's not Citadel, is it? I think that's another one that was cancelled. But the Amazon, you know what I'm talking about, didn't you?
Yeah.
That I got like a big water bottle for that, and
sitting with my Stadia controller, my On Live controller, my Ouya.
There's a Pikachu over there with a Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt baseball cap on. This could be a running series.
Concord t-shirt.
Yeah, I should have bought that Concord controller. I thought about it, and now it's like very, very expensive. The
point is that they're going to have to stop this because they're surely now the publishers are seeing every time how often this is happening, and it's relatively high profile games. They must now all be realizing that multiplayer and live service isn't a guaranteed thing, and that they should, if a game has a mainly single player component, just do the single player. Focus on single player games with lower budgets, get them out. If they don't sell well at first, they've got time to build word of mouth instead of you having to pull the plug on it within 3 to 6 months. Let it keep going, build up a library of stuff instead of just X number of months down the line, you've got nothing to show for yourself because everything's disappeared. It can't continue.
It can't get, to quote David Moyes, it can't get any worse. It just can't. Speaking of David Moyes and football, story number 2, EA blames underperformance of Dragon Age and EA FC 25's 5 as it lowers its forecast. EA's initial guidance for its current fiscal year ending March 31st anticipated mid-single digit growth from its live service, including FC 25. However, the company warned the market on Wednesday that it now expects mid-single digit decline, with FC 25 slowdown during the Christmas period, accounting for a majority of the change. Dragon Age The Veilguard, quote-unquote, engaged 1.5 million players during 3 months. I wonder how many copies it sold if it engaged 1.5 million, because it certainly wasn't all of them. Nearly half of its expectations. First of all, Dragon Age not selling well doesn't surprise me at all. I feel like you could have seen that coming for space.
No, the story isn't Dragon Age. The story is EAFC.
Yeah, Chris Scullion and EAFC slowdown. That feels unprecedented and also quite surprising to me. But in retrospect, thinking about how much shit they've been giving away on FC 25 recently, it makes sense.
It's been oddly generous. Like this year with the start, I've got like a team almost full of legends already, and it's only been a couple of months. It is odd because you also got to take into account the grand scheme of this and the scale of this, because a slowdown for FC 25 still makes it one of the best selling games of the year.
Yeah, it's still massive. It's also worth noting that I think the NBA games and some of the other sports titles were also down.
Yeah,
I mean, it just hasn't been a great market across. But I mean, you guys would know more than me. It's about this particular game, and I know they just put a huge update out, right, which suggests that they were kind of spurred to do that. I mean, what is it? You guys been enjoying it before?
It's hard to tell because every year a FIFA or now EAFC game comes out, and every year people hate the changes made to it because people just don't like change. So you always get people saying they've broken the defending, they've broken this, and then
it's the same with Call of Duty,
exactly.
Exactly
And then after a month or two, they just get on with it because they go, well, they get used to the changes and they go, okay, well, this is how it is now, and then they change it again next year. They go, what, you can't? But this year, for some reason, EA is halfway, like a few months in, have gone, no, actually, here is the biggest revamp of gameplay we've ever done in a FIFA game.
It was like a totally different game.
And they've totally changed loads of stuff. And I was like, why? I get
that's really strange because usually they'd be saving all of that stuff for the next installment, right?
Definitely. Yeah. And I was like, it didn't feel that bad. I was still enjoying it like I do every year.
It's probably a knee jerk, right? They probably they don't know why they're trying to find out why this engagement is down. I mean, according to unemployed man Christopher Dring, he says data for Europe, which you'd think is probably the biggest territory for FC, right? Shows a 5% drop in sales versus the previous game, which is, it's 5%. It's not 20%.
Yeah.
It says, meanwhile, Ampere, the analyst group, reports a 1.8 million drop in monthly active users and a 2% fall in engagement.
You could maybe put the sales down to last year being a tournament year. Obviously, those games did really well. But
someone noted like Ted Lasso was massive.
Yeah,
that's a factor.
It's weird because obviously the engagement around FC is all based on Ultimate Team largely, and for Ultimate Team, they have never been more forward in selling you packs that cost like 30 to 40 real British pounds. Like they were never. It was always the cap was always. The 100k pack was like 2,000 FIFA points, which remind me, Chris, is about 20 quid. That was like that was like the upper end, but now that's like a mid-tier pack. They're getting like ridiculous with how much they're selling, and that's like they're obviously capitalizing on the whales and the streamers and the people that do this. But on the other end of that, as Chris said, it's never been easier to get an unbelievably top end team without spending any money. So I wonder if they've just nullified that grind, so players are getting to like the end point and it's like, well, this is as far as I can go without spending any money, because there's like an elite tier beyond what you can do for free where you're getting like your icon Ronaldos and Ronaldinhos and stuff like that. But Chris, I don't know if you feel this way. I feel the same. I have a Celtic past and present team. They're good enough. Like they're not the best team in the game, but they're good enough. I'm having fun playing it. I have absolutely no compulsion whatsoever to spend money on FC, and I used to pump money into this game, and I just don't care anymore.
I buy the Ultimate Edition. If I'm not the one reviewing it that year, I'll buy the Ultimate Edition, which is like 90 quid or something with discounts.
I stick the equivalent of that in on the first day, and then that's me.
But that's it. I don't spend a single penny on it again. And I generally that's my rule for all live service stuff, is that if it's free to play, I'll spend a wee bit, because they need to make their money somehow, and I acknowledge that. And as long as it's fair and it's not the whole thing's not a big kind of money spinning scam, and that the £10 or £20 I'm going to spend on it isn't going to be another £10 or £20 payment the next week and the next week, as long as that lasts me a long time, I'm happy to do that. If it's a paid game like something like Dreamlight Valley has now become, and they then expect if and they add microtransactions to that, I won't pay any extra money for it, because I've paid my money for it. And unless the stuff you're adding is like an expansion, like they did, like a paid expansion with proper extra content in it, then fine. But nickel and diamond stuff, I've not any interest in. And yeah, FIFA is very much playable. I can't say the same for the WWE games. Then like 2K are worse. 2K are significantly worse with it. I spoke to the developers recently, but we'll speak about that next week maybe. It's that's a different matter altogether, is the 2K side of things. But EA, the FC games are quite, I don't say generous, because they're still trying to like get everyone to buy the packs. But like you say, you can do quite well in FIFA without spending any extra money, which might be where the decline is coming. But it's crazy that it's to keep the shareholders happy, like, because shareholders want to see a line going up the way all the time, and the fact that the line's going down a little bit, they're going, in any other walk of life, and anyone else looking at these numbers for FC25 alone without any context is obscenely high numbers. They're still making an obscene amount of money on Ultimate Team and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And taken on as a standalone product, it is comically successful. Even in America, it was the 8th best-selling game in America for a country that doesn't give a shit about football.
It's only going to get higher over there when they get the World Cup.
Exactly. So they've got that to look forward to. So in the grand scheme of things, they shouldn't be worrying about FIFA, but it is like there's a slight dip starting.
Yeah.
But you're talking decades before that becomes an issue. I would say a real issue.
I think the thing is, games of that size, right? I mean, that's a monster, absolute monster. It's cultural rather than us talking about, compared to Dragon Age, it's not even in the same, medium really. Mm-hmm. But it's not like the old days where you'd be competing for people's money, right? It's time. Yeah. Young people now have got so much on their, being offered to them for free in terms of entertainment. You're competing with kind of Spotify and Netflix and everything, YouTube and everything else. They decide how am I going to spend the time? Am I going to play FIFA tonight, or am I going to watch a movie or a show? Yeah, that does move the needle. If something else happens in some other form of entertainment, if money's low because of inflation, if there's other stuff going on in the world, that does kind of affect these things now, I think, more than they used to.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of companies that are struggling, we've got some Pokemon news. After the break, some words from our sponsors and some words from our friends. See you in a minute.
Hello, happy 100th episode of the podcast. VGC is one of the good ones. I read it every single day, so it was very nice of you to ask me to give you a little voice message, a little voice note. But I've known and loved you all for a very long time. Too long, actually, if you think about it. And I really enjoy giving Jordan abuse both in person and via text. So I hope that VGC continues for a very long time so I can continue to do that. So congrats again on your 100th episode. Here's to the next 100 and beyond. Wait, Beyond's probably a trademark of IGN, so don't use Beyond. You could try rearranging the letters of Beyond a bit. Maybe you could come up with a new name from there, because it hasn't stopped you before. Just kidding. Love you. Happy 100th. Bye.
Hello, it's Timur. There was a time when I used to be on a podcast with Chris and Andy, except we had a different arrangement of letters. So I know how much fun it can be chatting with those lads, and although I've never been on a podcast with Jordan, I've had conversations with him and it's been mostly fine. Anyways, congrats. You guys are all, I love you. Here's to 100 more episodes and then 100 more after that.
Hey everyone, award-winning gaming leaker Jeff Grubb here to tell you about Video Games Chronicle. It's a great resource for videos and games. They have all the best videos, and they even have some chronicles as well. It's pretty impressive stuff. They cover everything from the latest releases to energy drinks. What is this? What am I doing? Am I getting paid for this? Oh, okay. All right, so go to videogameschronicle.com. You probably won't regret it.
The Pokemon Company, your friend and ours, vows to improve after London reservation struggles. The pop-up Pokemon Centre is returning to London next month during EUIC, which is Pokemon European Championships. Now the Pokemon Company has said that it's investigating ways to improve its online registration process after thousands of fans were unable to register for the Pokemon Centre. So lads, this is how it went. Every single year, the pop-up Pokemon Centre comes to the XL, and it is completely impossible to get a reservation. The website goes up, and it's basically just a big spread of all the reservation times across the 4 days. You click on a time, and you pray to God that the website refreshes at the correct time, and you get that 15-minute slot. However, when this happened the other day, the website didn't work whatsoever. So people found out that if you changed the URL, and instead of putting one word, you changed it to confirmation, it would force you through to the final page, and that's how people were getting slots. Not only that, the website was up before 2 p.m, so people were able to book out multiple slots, meaning that the vast majority of people I spoke to didn't get a spot in the store. Now, this is likely driven by a new Pokemon card set Pokemon TCG Prismatic Evolutions. I have a nice box of it here. This box, when sealed, was worth £400. I paid £50 for it because I pre-ordered it. And there's been like fist fights in America over it. You can't get it for love nor money. And now the Pokemon Company has exclusively confirmed to VGC that they will not be selling any of it at the pop-up Pokemon Center. So the scalpers have completely wasted their time. Andy Robinson, it's your favorite time of the year. It's your time to say Pokemon does this every time. They should improve, like with Van Gogh, like with everything beforehand.
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a disgrace, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the suggestion is that they're not really that bothered, that this does happen every single time. VGC is going to be 6 pretty soon, 6 years. And I remember one of our first stories was writing about the first pop-up, how it was just a disaster every day, right? I mean, we went to the last London, what was the London thing in the XL?
That's the EUIC,
Sure.
it's the same one.
For someone who's not that, I like Pokemon, but I'm a casual Pokemon fan, right? I used to love Pokemon when I was a kid. When they originally came out, I was around for that. But for me, it's like, they have this tournament and this thing and that, and it's difficult to track, right? But he went to that and it was just gutted, you know?
Yeah.
And I went, they got me in. That was me. Like, we get in with like press tickets and stuff. You know, God knows what it'd been like if I'd have queued. So I don't think their community gives them enough, without following it actively, gives them enough stick for this.
Yeah.
They do.
It happens
it's
every time.
They've got that's never responded to. Like, they don't engage with it whatsoever. It's just it's very Nintendo. It's just a complete like.
Yeah, no, but also on the other side, sympathy for them because they're it's the biggest entertainment property on earth, right?
Yeah.
So they're dealing with challenges that other companies, other brands are just not facing. Most of which is just the onslaught of scalpers, right? As you suggested. And you know what really grinds my gears?
Here we go,
Jordan.
It is.
But the people who are like, it comes up on my TikTok, all the time. These people who are flipping these Pokemon cards and buying them, they don't care about the Pokemon card. Like, isn't it sad that even the fact that you had to go, this is worth £400? Who gives a shit? Why is it worth £400 unopened? So I don't care. Like, but the monetary value, like you're showing some card that's probably it's worth this, according to Dave the Grifter on TikTok, who sits and opens them and puts monetary value as he opens them. Like, ding, this is worth $140. When did the joy get sucked out of that game?
2020.
Like, I was there for the original. I used to have Pokemon. I mean, you've seen my Pokemon cards under in my loft.
You
my original
legitimately
Pokemon cards.
have thousands of pounds of cards.
I was in school for the original ones. We weren't collecting them like kids do today, which is, this one's worth $50. Like, the idiot Paul brothers.
It's his fault. It's
buying them
his
for
fault.
like, it's just meaningless. It's a grift. It's a complete. It's no different from the Watter situation where in the pandemic people were set like copies of like Mario Brothers were going for over $1 million. Yeah. Which they're absolutely not worth. Artificially inflated for some grift to help people, to help your mates out with the auction house and the grading company. Yeah. It really frustrates me because people who are a lot of the people in this scene now, they're not Pokemon fans. Yeah. They don't like trading card game. They shouldn't be in the community, in my opinion. You see it the same in a lot of areas of life now, sadly. I mean, obviously I travel to Japan a lot. I used to love, kind of collecting retro games and stuff. That scene's been decimated there because literally, up to about 5 years ago, you'd see people, you started seeing people just go there with, pick up baskets in the shop and just like knock the stuff in the shelves into baskets because they're just going to put them on eBay and flip them. Because again, it's exactly the same situation now. If you look at lots of retro game collectors, I mean, I know people who are retro game collectors, insert quotes, and I see content creators and they don't know what the hell they are. Like, I mean, I've got friends who are into it now and they literally did not play games before a couple of years ago because it's the same thing. It's, this is worth like $400 sealed.
Mate, just on that, before you continue, on that point specifically, the amount of people who open Pokemon card packs and they're like, can't pronounce the names of the Pokemon, have never seen these Pokemon, be like, oh, I never played this game, and they're just doing it because that prick Logan Paul made it all about how much money a card was worth. They made it all about, I have no problem with people that grade cards. I'm not really into it. I think if you want to have like a graded collection, whatever, but you can chart the price of the original Pokemon cards. They were like, obviously because it had been 25 years, it was hard to get nice condition 90s Pokemon cards, but they weren't. It was like a couple of grand for a PSA 10 base set Charizard, and then it went to like $250,000. The problem now is that a certain set from a few years ago had this Umbreon card in it that was very hard to get because when that set was being printed, people stole that card from the printing press en masse, so there was very few of them in the actual packs, and thus it went on to be worth a lot of money. This new set has similar cards, so people are buying it based on that. The one thing that Pokemon has done, they have now started printing these sets to a comical degree. So eventually these cards will be worth nothing. 1/5 of every Pokemon card printed in history was printed last year. Like, they are just printing stuff to oblivion, and that's the only way you can destroy this market. Make the cards so easy to get, but for this first run of Prismatic Evolution, it's just not happened.
It's just like Prime all over again, isn't it? Like when Prime drinks came out, Arsenal's selling them for 20 quid a bottle, and now you can go to any supermarket you want and they're filling the shelves. Like, when something is new and you know it's going to be produced in large quantities, eventually it just kind of holds fire. And if it's going to be scarce, I'm not. I don't know if it's just, I just don't get that lifestyle. I can't just get my head. When I buy something, I open it immediately. Like, all these things, like when Yoshi's Woolly World was released, I'm sure we all remember that. They brought out a Poochie amiibo, no Poochie, the wee kind of woolly dog. The real Poochie, none of this Simpsons shit. The Yoshi's Bud. They made an amiibo of Poochie, and that amiibo boxed sells for like 170, 180 quid on eBay. The kid sleeps with it at night. Yeah. It's like
mine's just up there.
Yeah. It's like that's what like that means.
But that's to me. Like, you said like you haven't got a problem with people grading stuff. I think at best they've been hoodwinked. Right?
I hate it.
I mean, cards maybe, but especially in video games. Why on earth are you encasing a video game in a lump of plastic? Yeah. The physical media degrades as well, right? Mm-hmm. So it's going to be useless at some point.
Yeah.
Well, because some companies put a number on it because they make money when their mates at the auction house sell them for ridiculously inflated prices. When I used to get Amiibo, which I've long since stopped, they came out the box straight away.
Yeah.
And my games, all the games that I've got are, readily. I mean, I've got them in a case, but they are there for playing.
Yeah, 100%.
What's the point?
100%.
The only thing I ever kept in boxes was wrestling figures when I was like collecting and trading them, like probably 10 years ago at this point, because I liked displaying them in boxes because I thought they looked better, like with the to display them. But that wasn't like, I wasn't doing that in the same way that people are buying stacks of Prismatic Evolutions ETBs, like those pictures of people with like 50 PS5s in their kitchen. Like, it's all that kind of shit. Yeah, the one thing that Pokemon does that is really annoying is, so this Elite Trainer box I have here, just dropping my cards, when they go up on pre-order, they do a normal version and they do a Pokemon Center version from the Pokemon Center website. It's the same price, but you get cards with like a you're never going to see that on that camera, but there's like a stamp there that says the Pokemon Center, and that's the only difference. Those go immediately, and I just wish that when they reprinted, they also reprinted the Pokemon Center versions. They're not actually that hard to get when they go. I suppose we have the advantage of, as soon as the new set goes up on pre-order, I get an alert through my email, so I can just like get it. But
going back to the original story about the
here we go.
Oh, here it is. Wait a minute. Here it comes.
Literally, like they just. I got them out of the loft because you were telling me you need to get them out for someone to look at them. I've just got like
people have told me that
This is just all the stuff I had
Doctor said that to me the other day. To get them out for Sunday, have a look.
So they've just been sat there, but
I sent pictures of your collection to my guy, and he said that it's like he told me that you should go to like an auction rather than a card shop to get them sold because they're in such good nick. Yeah, I'll make you an offer. I'll work for free for one day. That should cover it.
Going back to the original story about the pop-up and the booking problems with the pop-ups been getting. We mentioned this, I think even just last week we mentioned this. The solution to that, and they've got the money, it's not a case of, it's all well and good saying just do this. They've got the money for it. Open a full Nintendo shop in Pokemon Center in London, a permanent one. Don't make it a stupid pop-up thing where everyone needs to jam in it for like a couple of days and that's your fill of Pokemon shopping. Get to Leicester Square, kick M&M out on their arse, turn that into a Nintendo shop and a Pokemon Center 2-in-1, and just that's your presence in London, and it'll be heaving for a couple of weeks, and then it'll get normal traffic that you would expect, and the whole scalping situation will still happen anytime a new product comes out. But by and large, that's you got your presence there. If PSG could have a shop in London, which makes no sense to me at all.
There's surely NBA shops.
Surely Nintendo needs to have a presence in London.
Well, I mean, everything tells you that there's a political reason that they're not doing that, right?
Mental.
Because it's the biggest entertainment brand in the world. You only have to look at what happens whenever they put a pop-up there. They could have a Pokemon Center in every city in this country, every major city in Europe, but they choose not to.
Yeah.
Outside of Japan,
Bandai
so there
Namco
must be
one.
a reason for that.
Yeah. Bandai opened that one last year with the
really
gachapon
nice,
machines that they've imported. I would think, imagine and on all the exclusive merch you get in the Japanese Nintendo shops. I mean, and a purely selfish reason, I wouldn't like it because that's half the excitement. They go to the Nintendo shops in Japan and see.
Maybe that's one of the reasons. Maybe that's one of the reasons. Probably they've got data that shows that X% of their sales in Japan at those stores are tourists every year.
Yeah, but it's just,
and it's true, right? If those stores were here, suddenly it's like,
it's just it's frustrating.
The problem is they can't make a UIC any longer. Like it's going to always be those 4 days. Like UIC itself is I'm only going for the 3 days. The shop is open on the Thursday. Like maybe they start doing the shop on the Wednesday, like a whole week of the shop or whatever, but the sheer amount of people that want to go into it. And when I went last year, Pokemon like took us round, which was like nice of them, but the queue to get into the shop, obviously it was quite well organized. The reservation system seemed to work, but when you got into the shop, it was like an hour to check out, and they had about 50 people checking people out. Guy next to me dropped like $5,000 on stuff. Just there you go, that's fine. The people I feel bad for is a lot of people that are competing at EUIC didn't get a slot. Like you don't get a slot just because you're a competitor. So it's a bad situation, and I wish they'd announced this thing about Prismatic not being there before this happened, because I feel like that had a huge impact, because now it's just stuff you can already get on the Pokemon Center website. A lovely Psyduck jumper that I will be buying, and like a few other bits and pieces, but like, how many kids are going to be in this? There's going to be like none, unless their parents are like really savvy about this stuff. There's no way.
That's the sad thing is that it's kids are getting muscled out by arseholes basically, and it's just not fun. Yeah, it's not good.
I mean, I took my kids to the last one, and there was just nothing there.
You went too late. You went.
Well, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that is the thing, though. I went
only lasts a few days.
I went Saturday morning.
It only lasts.
Like you should have pulled them out of school and gone Thursday, mate.
Yeah, there shouldn't be too late if it only lasts a few days.
Because there's like so many people there who are grabbing their shit to put on eBay. Like, honestly, fire them into the moon.
Don't worry, I'm going first thing on the Friday. So text me if you're listening to this. Text me and I'll sort you out. Good deal, good rates. A moment of silence. Warner Brothers gaming boss has left, and it's all Chris Scullion's fault. David Haddad is leaving his position after 12 years. The news was shared internally on Thursday, and it was confirmed that the exec will continue in his role for 3 months until a successor is found. He had thoughts about expansion and strategic plans I don't care about. Chris, I just want this as a pivot to moan about multiverses. What happened? Multiverses was going to be the thing that saved this website. What went on?
Listen, anyone long-time listeners will know I champion multiverses to the hilt. It's exactly my kind of thing. It's a smash. I love a crossover. I'm a sucker for a crossover. I hate people, as I've ranted before, who are snobby about crossovers. I think they're a great time, a hoot and a holler. Multiverse is just, they dropped the ball so many times. And they dropped the ball to the extent where they had to cancel it essentially last time. And they pretended, we were in a beta period before, and the next time will be the full launch. And it's like, no, you said season 1, season 2, like you were planning to continue, and at some point just say, okay, we're now version 1. Instead, they pulled it and sat on it for 9 months or whatever it was, and then brought it back. And the arse collapsed again. It started really well again and just dropped off. They added loads of features that no one cared about. The seasons go on for an interminably long time. And it's just so much grinding.
You're like a poet. You're like Edgar Allan Poe. The seasons go on for an interminably long time. And it's always winter. But it's just the grind was ridiculous in it, and the amount of extra money they were kind of, as it goes back to the nickel and diamond argument, and it's like, and it was just, the content wasn't coming fast enough. And for a game like that, when the whole idea is, look at all these different universes that are coming, it's going to be amazing, it wasn't coming fast enough, and people were losing patience with it. It relaunched well with Jason from Friday the 13th and Agent Smith from The Matrix and all that kind of stuff, and the Joker. And then the second season they added Beetlejuice, some DC character I don't remember, and now we're on to like it's this one, and now they're on to like tertiary characters from Adventure Time, and it's like, so people aren't that excited anymore. And doesn't this company own Harry Potter? Did they not put any?
Well, apparently Harry Potter's wasn't invited to the multiverse, and neither was any of the other kind of people that you saw in the background in Space Jam: A New Legacy, which was the whole point of the multiverse thing. None of them have turned up. So it's a shame. I think by making it a big kind of Warner Brothers circle jerk, I don't think that helps, because they're limiting the number of kind of IPs they can use. Whereas, not to trumpet one of my all-time favourites, Lego Dimensions had started with Warner Brothers IP and then expanded to bring in like.
If anyone's playing Castilian Bingo at home, there you go. There's your Lego Dimensions.
Take off Lego Dimensions.
You mentioned the Amiga earlier.
But Lego Dimensions started with just Warner Brothers IP and then went into like Sonic and Knight Rider and E.T., Ghostbusters, like Doctor Who. It was amazing. It ran out of steam too quickly again. All the stuff they promised didn't really come to fruition, and I've need to check the figures to see how well it's doing, but I would imagine it's slowing again, maybe not to the rate it did last time, but I mean, we see what the result is. Warner said a couple of months ago that multiverses didn't do as well as they expected. You've now got Warner Bros. Interactive's president leaving, not purely because of that. Like Suicide Squad obviously had an impact as well, but those two games combined were their big kind of sales tickets, and they haven't. Neither of them has kind of delivered.
Andy, I'm looking at the games that this guy's presided over, and it's really boom or bust. Like he's got a good load of Lego games under his, like obviously Skywalker Saga sold amazing, Hogwarts Legacy sold amazing. Those Mortal Kombat games are kind of well liked and seem to do quite well, but also they've completely squandered the Arkham stuff, like Suicide Squad, obviously a bin fire. No Lord of the Rings Shadow of Middle Earth game in about a decade. What is going on with this Warner Brothers games situation?
I can't say I feel particularly sorry for someone in a very well paid job.
Oh, he'll be fine.
Clearly he's going to be getting he's not in trouble. There's better people to kind of be concerned about these days, I think, without sounding too disrespectful, but at the same time, it's difficult to see what Warner Brothers top brass really expected from this guy. David Haddad is a very, very experienced leader in games. He was at Activision, I believe, for this. Like a lot of the flops. I mean, obviously, Warner, from what I can see, have only like the top brass only started paying attention after the pandemic anyway. Yeah. Like a lot of these companies, right? Hogwarts Legacy is this huge success, and then suddenly it's like, right, everything needs to be Hogwarts. And a year later, you obviously have Suicide Squad, and Multiverses has not really worked out how it did the first time around. Games that would have been planned, in Suicide Squad cases, maybe a decade ago, right?
Yeah.
Based on trends from a decade ago. The industry is not the same as it was, right?
Yeah.
And they need to really understand that it's not the bloody movie industry. He can't just pump another one out. It seems like a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to me without being a proper analyst about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what they expect, but they've not really minced their words, have they? I mean, in their last investor call, they specifically highlighted the games division as significantly underperforming. Blah blah blah. I wonder who it was that mandated that they need to make all of these live service games.
That's it. That's what did it. Like Suicide Squad was dead in arrival after people. It was a Concord situation. Once it gets that initial backlash, it's very, very hard to recover from that. The only one in recent memory that did it was Silent Hill 2. When the internet has decided that a game has fucked them over, it takes a miracle to kind of turn that around and make the internet decide, actually, yeah, you've done well. And Suicide Squad, by all accounts, wasn't a bad game, but no one was interested when it came out because they'd already decided they hated it because of the stuff that had been done before, and that was fully preventable. And I know these things like those decisions probably weren't made by the development team and were made by higher ups who see the live service trend and say we want a piece of that. But it's as if they didn't see what happened to the Avengers game and decided just to press on anyway, because the Avengers game suffered similar backlash because of all that stuff that wasn't necessary, and they just pressed on anyway. It's frustrating.
I bet we see Hogwarts Legacy 2 within the next 2 years. I think they're all full steam ahead on that. Obviously, that's what they're making. And I mean, that is probably going to be a huge hit again, especially with like the kind of long tail that first game has had. But yeah, they're in a weird spot. I can't believe they never did a follow-up to those Lord of the Rings games that were brilliant. They've got that Wonder Woman game that they announced with like a 5-second trailer and has said nothing about since. That's a weird situation. Obviously, Rocksteady. Next game's probably make or break for them in the worst possible way. Like, I could almost see them just going and doing another Batman and being like, well, at least people know that they like this stuff, and it will have been a long time since Arkham Knight at that point. Yeah, it's a bad situation for the old WB. The house that Bugs Bunny built, Chris Scullion.
He did indeed. Remember he did it.
What Lego games? I would have thought that after the Skywalker saga, like the word on the street is that they have been doing a Harry Potter version of the Skywalker saga for some time now, and that seems like a very obvious one. But it's weird to me that they don't put out more of the old Traveler's Tales style Lego games with a bit more of a clip, because maybe this is complete ignorance, but they don't seem like the most expensive games in the world to put together. Maybe the license for the film rights are hard or something.
It's weird because they had a formula and it was working, and I didn't see a lot of people getting bored of it. And then obviously if you played every single one of them that came out, you'd eventually get to the point where, like, right, I get how it works. There's a hub, and then each hub goes to a chapter, and then you unlock 400 characters and then go back through it again. Fine, but they were getting snapped up, and I don't know if I don't know if there's maybe people have just moved on because they're constantly on sale for like a tenner, and like physically and digitally. I don't know if that's why, or if that's just they've sold so much now that they can afford to do that. But yeah, it does make me wonder why, because as good as Skywalker Saga was, they don't all need to be that grandiose. You can go back to like a Lego movie video game, like, or a Lego Jurassic Park tier Lego game where you just put the levels in, put some funny cutscenes in, put a bunch of characters in, and rely on co-op play and nostalgia alone to kind of get you through. But yeah, there's loads of kind of franchises there they could be doing something with and aren't yet. A shame.
Lego VGC, the video game podcast.
Kind of beat it.
People from around the globe have been messaging me this week saying, we want to pay respect to the greatest podcast in the world. And I said, well, they've been going for much longer than us, but if you want to pay respect to a B-rate podcast, you can do that. So we have a few more messages from some of our very best friends. See you in a minute.
Happy 100th episode. I sounded like Nosferatu there. Happy 100 episodes to the VGC pod. From me, Christopher MacArthur Boyd of such podcasts as Enjoy an Album and Here Comes the Guillotine. Well done, 100's hard. A century of humiliation, as the Chinese might say. Shout out to the Chinese and shout out to VGC pod. Thank you.
Hello, VGC podcast. Ethan Lawrence here, large actor and star of Screen. Very many congratulations on hitting 100 episodes. As an old friend of the pod, it fills me with joy. Obviously not enough of a friend to actually be on the 100th episode, but that's by the by. Here's to 78 more, at which point Jordan Midler will disappear up CM Punk's arsehole.
Congratulations, VGC, on your 100th podcast episode. This is Keza McDonald, and of all the podcasts involving a bunch of guys sitting around talking about video games, you guys are very genuinely my favourites. Congrats again. Here's to many more.
And we are back. Andy Robinson, Japan expert, the internet's foremost Japan expert, was the only person that we could send on assignment to play Assassin's Creed Shadows. How is it? Is it going to be the game that saves Ubisoft?
I don't know.
Thanks, Andy. Okay.
I mean, we just spent a whole section. You can't I don't know whether it's, it's impossible to tell now.
How's the game?
Is it good game?
Ubisoft?
Yes, everything's good game. It's really, really pretty. It's really well, kind of put together as you'd expect, right? Is it? I don't know. It's just like, it feels like they've just put it next to so many big hitters now, not least that, is it Ghosts of Yotei out this year?
Yeah, it's out this year.
Like, that's, it's people like these games. If you love like a big open world sandbox thing, that you can, kind of explore and get yourself lost in, then this is going to scratch your itch, really. Like, it's a really, really beautiful world. They've done a much better job of subtly integrating the UI stuff. Like they've talked about a bit. It's on the website that the towers now kind of like you climb them and then you just use them to spot, like to manually look around and spot points of interest. So there's just less icons in general on your screen. It feels a little bit more subtle than it was in previous games. Obviously, everyone's kind of complained about that. But I enjoyed so they split the demo in half, right? That we played. First of all, the Assassin's Creed Infinity thing we've been hearing about for years is clearly on there because it's called Animus Hub, and it's got every game on it. It's got like it's like you're in the Animus and you're scrolling between the time periods, like between all the characters, and you can boot straight into those games and play as them. So you're choosing your character. Like obviously, if you haven't got it, you'll be sent to like the PlayStation Store or something.
It's all just grayed out if you've only got one game.
So the first half was like the prologue, and the second half was like they just dropped us in the sandbox later in the game to play. And I enjoyed the prologue more. It's they've very clearly been watching the success of Shogun, or if they haven't, it's a big coincidence. It's very similar in setup. Like it's a time period when Japan's being forced to accept foreign influence, and you kind of see all of that from the eyes of a foreigner, or partly from the eyes of a foreigner, from Yasuki, who's obviously real historical figure. There's some debate on whether or not he was a samurai, but a lot of historians believe that he was. But obviously this is partly based on real history, partly fiction, again like Shogun. And you are with the daimyo Nobunaga, who kind of takes you into his fold, and there's a lot of like intrigue and Portuguese missionaries and it seems to be doing some smart stuff because there's a dual protagonist. You also play as I don't even know what is her name. How do I pronounce it? Naoi, I believe.
Yeah,
someone will shout at me about that. But she's like the Tenchu fantasy, basically. She's what we imagined Assassin's Creed Japan being like she's the ninja character, and there's like parts of the prologue where you're like Yasuke, who's like the one-man army, and you're smashing through this city, like burning it to the ground for your new master, and then you'll switch to her like earlier in the day, and she's like on the other side of the same battle, like sneaking people out of the city and stuff like that. So it seems like they might do some cool stuff narratively, and I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed it less so when it flips to the open world. I haven't got a big tolerance for 100-hour games that don't give me the entertainment anyway, like the caveat. So that's not entirely surprising that I enjoyed the linear bit first. And it's also difficult in these preview events that they're basically lobbing you in the middle of a 60-hour game, right? And you don't fully understand all of it. And I chose Yasuke, and it wasn't like I wanted to climb buildings and do stuff, and he was like just this big, like, you know, one-man army. So the only thing I couldn't work out how to switch characters either, because that wasn't clear. So I just murdered my way through a castle with him. Like absolutely murdering, you know, killing. You can see the footage on YouTube. And then like after an hour, I worked out how to switch to Naui. And then that was a completely different experience. It's like a Tenchu game, right? You're like, you've got a grapple hook and you can go prone and sneak. And there's like a UI item that shows you whether like how visible you are. So yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun. I, you know, will reserve judgment to when we have the whole thing, because it's just so difficult to gauge these games. I do think it's a different prospect to Ghost of Tsushima. It's a very different type of game, although there's influences there clearly. Like there's like a real time wind, you know, blowing the foliage and stuff like that. And it's at the very least, it's going to be really cool game to explore and run around in.
I do feel like 5 where you can swap at any time. Did they say?
Yeah, you can. You can.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it took me an hour to find that.
I do feel sorry for Ubisoft Quebec, because they've obviously, when they were starting making it, going, "Oh, this would be cool. This is the Assassin's Creed in Japan that everyone wanted." And then obviously Ghost of Tsushima is amazing. Ghost of Yotei is coming out, and they're all like, it's quite similar. And they're saying, don't worry about it. We'll keep going. We're different enough. And then like they announce a new Onimusha, and they're like, don't worry about it. It'll be okay. We've got a ninja. That's different. And then they announce Ninja Gaiden 4, and they're like, this is good. But no, I'm curious about it. I'm bored of the whole, was he a samurai in real life or not stuff, because I think deep down we all know what the actual point is of those arguments. Because I don't remember anyone ever saying, "Wait a minute, Da Vinci wasn't pals with Ezio in real life." That never came up at any point, so we know what's going on there. So I hope people can focus on the game instead of all that shit. But yeah, I'm curious about it. The open world stuff concerns me, because I just generally don't have time for open world stuff these days. But I'm willing to. It's my kind of thing, so I'll give it a go. But yeah, we'll see. I'm hopeful. Ubisoft needs a hit.
Oh, don't worry. The headline on the review, if it's good, will be "The game that saves Ubisoft," and then it'll sell like 1 million copies. Footage of that is on YouTube. Chris mentioned there was a Xbox Developer Direct, Ninja Gaiden Black 2 remake. It's out now. It's on all platforms. Platinum's making a new Ninja Gaiden. We got release dates for Clara Obscura, South of Midnight, and Doom: The Dark Ages. Doom. Which I saw the other day, and let me tell you something, brothers. This game looks banging. It feels like this is the last one they're going to do for a while, so they've just put everything up to the absolute highest degree they can. They described it as, in Doom Eternal, you were a jet fighter, you were fast and you were jumping about and flying around, whereas in Doom the Dark Ages, you're a weapon of mass destruction. You're just this absolute hulking beast in God mode at all times. Obviously, it's a prequel, medieval setting, it's in medieval hell, and everything they're showing about it makes me desperate to play it. The biggest levels they've ever done. You have a mech, you have like a Megazord essentially, a Doom Megazord, which is amazing. You have a cybernetic dragon as well for Panzer Dragoon flying sections.
That's awesome.
It really it was almost like a 14. I was watching the demo. I was like, this is what a 14-year-old would describe as like the greatest game of all time. If they were just coming up with their greatest game of all time, it would be this. And it seems like, Andy, you better mute that bloody mic. I swear to God,
sorry.
snap that keyboard in half.
Tapping away.
This to me, especially after playing Indiana Jones, I was like, oh, Bethesda's on some run of form, by the way, because I can see this coming out and people being like, what an absolute banger. I loved Doom 2016, didn't love Eternal as much, but this seems like it's more 2016 than Eternal. Chris, have you got any... you played any of this new trilogy?
Yeah, I played them both. I loved them both. Like, again, I preferred 2016 more than Eternal, but I still loved Eternal. I'm up for it. I love the idea of fighting in a medieval hell, although I have been to Airdrie, so I wonder how different it's going to be. A wee Scottish joke there for the Scots listening. Yeah. Who will
all the Airdrieonians in this podcast listeners are going to be very angry.
Both of them. But yeah, it's my kind of thing. I love the idea of just being able to switch off and just carve through people. It's like it'll be a nice a wee bit of tension release at the end of a work day. I noticed they were talking about gameplay sliders, which hasn't had people complaining. I think when a game's got goodwill around it, people are less willing to complain about any little thing that they mention. So the fact that they said there's gameplay sliders and you can slow the game down if you want, there weren't a lot of people going, what? Doom's gone woke? It seemed people are just like, oh, that's good. I thought, oh, what? Okay,
it's counteracted with the fact that you've got a gun that shoots skulls. People are like, okay,
that might be the best gun that's ever created. It literally, you see the animation of skulls getting put in it and crushed up, and then you fire skull fragments at people. That's unbeatable. That should be in every game. That should be in the next Yoshi's Island.
They've also fixed kind of the only issue I had with the previous two, where obviously they've got the glory kill system, which if you're not familiar, when you weaken an enemy to such a point, he starts glowing gold, and you would press a button and you'd get zoomed across the map into a canned animation to like rip their arms off and smash them in the head with their arms. Always looked great, but it was always kind of you might as well put the controller down because you weren't doing anything. This time they've changed it so the animation can happen at any angle. You're not getting locked into anything. And also there's like rapid glory kills where you just like smash your mace at them and they just like explode like a dying star. And you get all the benefits of the glory kill there. You have a mace, you have a flail, you have an electrified gauntlet like for a full melee system. You have a shield that you can throw like Captain America. Like it's insane. It looks absolutely brilliant. I can't wait for this one. We said it when Indiana Jones came out. How are Xbox getting all these good games just as they're like, yep, put it on PS5, go for it.
I say, like, with the situation that Sony just now, PlayStation 5 players must be delighted at Xbox. Just as people are going, what are Sony playing at? Where are their games? Xbox went, don't worry, we've got these. They're all on, so thanks very much. It's ridiculous because, it makes a complete mockery of the console war as well. Is that all the PlayStation fans who
the console war ended a long time
ago. It's reduced to morons.
See the latest Circana numbers. The Xbox Series consoles are selling less than Xbox One. And PS5 is selling more than PS4. Like if
that's
the same period of the generation, it's. They're not stupid. I mean, Phil Spencer, has said this a while back. They've made this decision. They probably gave it a year and then looked at the numbers, right? Mm-hmm. There was I'm sure there was a report recently about how Microsoft CEO even there was a point where it's like, do we continue with this or do we not? After a year after the console came out, the people, I say this on every pod, I swear I do. People made their digital libraries on the last console.
Bingo card. There we go.
Bingo card. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't change after that.
Yeah, 100%.
Andy, I'm telling you now, much like I was correct about Indiana Jones being a banger, you're going to want to play Doom the Dark Ages. That's got the banger lock on it, the JJM banger lock. May 15th, good slot. There's hee-haw out at that point, apart from maybe the Switch 2.
May the 15th be with you. Yeah.
Exactly. Chris, you posited a conspiracy theory. Would you like to share that with the class?
My conspiracy theory is that Doom, The Dark Ages will be Switch 2 launch game. Complete guesswork. Just around about the same time as people are saying, no, we get the Switch 2. I think we get the Switch 2 on the 15th of May, along with Doom, The Dark Ages.
15th of May.
And if I'm wrong, then forget I said it.
If you're wrong, we delete this podcast in the archives.
We'll do a new
all those
episode
people
100.
saying that the new Ninja Gaiden wasn't going to be platinum. And I like that. I don't think I believe you, but I like it. I'm with you.
I don't think I believe me either, but it would be nice.
I'm going to put a moratorium until April on us even mentioning Switch 2 stuff, because it's going to get to the point where some accessory manufacturer is going to come out and be like, here's the trailer, here's the advertising campaign, here's the full direct that we've actually recreated with puppets. I think they did that. That was good. The story of the year, in my opinion, there is hope that GTA 6 will cost as much as $100. The long and short of this is that an analyst put out his state of video gaming in 2025, and he pointed out that there are some in the industry on the publishing side that hope that GTA 6 will be $100 so that they can then go, oh, well, we'll make our games $100 as well, much like when there was the swap from $60 to $70 for the PS5 generation. Chris, to say this irked some people would be perhaps an understatement. I am of the opinion that if Take-Two came out and said, okay, GTA is out on this Tuesday, but see if you give us $200, you can play it a week early, millions of people would pay the $200, and it's the only game that would get away with that.
That was the point I was going to say. GTA is the only one that would shift for. It's all well and good. Assuming this analyst statement is even correct in the first place. Let's go with that. Right. Let's assume that he has heard from people in the industry that they hope GTA 6 costs
Concord to $100. Here we go.
If he is hearing that, and if it was ever to be $100, GTA is the only game that will sell for $100. Nothing else.
But I'd love to know what the medium launch price is for a AAA game now, anyway.
It's 70 on digital, but every time...
No, I mean, because every AAA game has like $100 version anyway.
Good point. Yeah.
So you mean the numbers and how many
obviously, I know prices come down rapidly in the weeks following launch, but surely maths says by default, then the medium price is going to be more than $70 at launch.
Also, the $100 versions are pish these days. All you get usually is like a couple of skins and 3 days of early access.
A digital art book, thank you very much.
Yeah, great, brilliant. I'm going to delete that off my console immediately. It's not like...
I mean, they can absolutely get away with it.
Yeah.
You can do a $70 version that doesn't include GTA Online or something.
Yeah.
Which that would probably be ridiculous. But you know what I'm saying is that I put some perceived value into it. The real hardcore fans are buying the $100 version anyway, right? Load of GTA Online skins on it and get it a few days early. People are going to pay that.
Yeah.
They've already shifted this early access thing that Microsoft has absolutely loved. Doom's got the same thing, like $100 version or the deluxe upgrade. You get it a bit early. I hate that. I think it's like one of the worst things that has just been completely covertly accepted. Especially, we were talking about it earlier, Chris. FC, they start the content when the early access people get it. So if you don't get early access, you can't get the first team of the week. Like, it's crazy what they do. Like, they have SBCs that are only for the early access people. They think that that's the default, which I'm sure it is.
And ultimately, it doesn't matter because all those kind of first cards are kind of within a few months are completely useless. But it's the principle. I think people feel like they're missing out. It's that FOMO thing. Even though in the grand scheme of things, that first week is pointless anyway. Everyone wants to be there on day one and kind of everyone who's dedicated enough. But yeah, it's I'm not a fan of that.
No, I don't think this will actually happen. I think GTA will come out and it'll be $70, but there will be a $100 version with a shark card. There'll be a $200 version. They'll probably do a nice collector's edition because the 4 and the 5 had really nice collector's editions. But I think that by the end of this gen, we maybe get up to 80 as the default because there's this there's this push and pull where games need to make more money and the audience won't accept games being of a lower production quality, but they won't accept it being more expensive either. Like, if Spider-Man 3 comes out and it doesn't look as good as Spider-Man 2, and it's not as big as Spider-Man 2, people are going to be like, well, what's going on here? And even a game as successful as Spider-Man, Sony were like, well, it didn't really make enough. So
yeah,
it's a really weird. I say GTA's. I've played games in my life that I think would have been worth 100. Like I think Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, stuff of that kind of massive quality and quantity of game. Mm-hmm. I could see bilateral $100, no problem.
Well, like I say, I spend nearly that on EAFC, and if I ever don't get the review version, I would spend it on the top edition of WWE every year, the WWE game. But I know I'm going to put 100 hours into each of those. I know I'm going to get my money's worth. If it's a generic single player adventure that's going to take 15 hours, 20 hours, there's no way in hell I'm touching that for £100.
The Order 1886.
Yeah, or even 80.
Maybe these difficult as well is because, we already know that fewer bigger games thing. Mm-hmm. This conversation's been well trodden. That games cost $60 35 years ago, when you could make them with 5 people for $1 million.
Yeah.
They've finally, you saw like the battle, the public battle to raise it from 60 to 70 for this gen. Hey guys, it's costing us 200 million to make these games. Let's put it up. Then inflation just killed that dead. Like the inflation from now since the new gen consoles launched has completely negated that $10 rise. So it might as well not have happened. So they're in a struggle, right? And I do think that there should be some flexibility on pricing as well as the size of games.
Yeah.
I mean, there already is somewhat. I do think GTA 5 is a $100 game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's just as soon as you making that argument's difficult. Like people have never had less money, etc. But
it's just perceived value. People have no invest values, like less money. How many hours of entertainment are you getting from GTA 5?
Don't need to convince me.
It's been the cheapest thing you've ever bought.
The amount of money we spent to go and see fucking Nosferatu, watch that. Good film, but it was 2 hours and that was it. Like, can't go and see that again for the same, whatever, £20 a shot it was. Like,
it's all perceived value. Yeah. It's all what's been, we've been trained on. You're absolutely right. If you charge like $20 to go for a 2-hour game, people would lose their shit.
Yeah.
But personally, I'd rather have an amazing 2-hour game than a really tedious 100-hour game.
Yeah.
Agreed. But I wouldn't pay £80 for it.
I wouldn't pay 80 quid for Chris Scullion's autobiography. I'd pay 200 quid.
What that'll be?
Yeah. From bowl cut to bowl cut, the Chris Scullion story. We have more messages from friends, and then we have your messages from the lovely Discordians. We'll see you in a minute.
Hi, this is Dan Reichert from Giant Bomb. I got this cameo request. I assume this is a cameo request. It came through my messages app for some reason. It's from a Jordan Midler saying, Jordan, they do a podcast about video games, and I assume you want some advice. Yeah, you know what? Just keep trying. There's not many video game podcasts out there. I think a lot of people are looking for a way to hear video game news and keep up to date on the industry with some fun podcast personalities talking about video games. So, be a trailblazer, Jordan. You can do it. You're the only one. Bye.
Yo, what's up? This is Blessing Adeoye Jr. from Kinda Funny. I want to wish Video Games Chronicle, the VGC podcast, a happy 100 episodes. Man, there are so many moments of the podcast that I remember and that I hold near and dear. But I want to say my favorite story with the podcast is back in the day. I want to say it was probably around episode 20 or so. It was Andy Robinson who had predicted that GTA 3 was going to be a masterpiece and change the game. And, nobody wanted to hear him. Nobody wanted to hear him out and believe in him. But, when I heard Andy Robinson talk about GTA 3 for the first time, and when that game came out, oh man, really changed things, really shook things up, and nobody saw the potential in GTA 3 leading up to it except for Andy Robinson. So, shout out Chris Scullion. Love you, Jordan Midler. Love you guys. And I hope you have a happy 100 episodes.
Hello, VGC. It's me, Ben Starr, your great friend, and also, I think most people like to admit, your greatest ever guest. I'm thrilled you've made it to 100 episodes, and I like to think you wouldn't have been able to do it without me. I remember when you said to me, Ben, the podcast is failing. We need to pull the emergency ripcord. We need to bring you on. And I said, stop being so fucking desperate. You've got this. But you brought me on anyway. And you know what happened? Viewers stayed around the same. We thought that there would be a spike. It was very consistent. It turns out that I have almost no pull. But I had a nice time. And I'm glad that you're still going strong. Bit of a wake-up call for me. I really thought, Ben's on. People want more. They just enjoyed it the same amount. Happy 100 episodes.
And we are back. We asked our lovely Discordians, which you can get access to for free. But if you go to patreon.com/videogameschronicle, get into the secret Patreon party where Chris Scullion puts up illicit images and Andy teases things and then weeks later goes, "Oh, told you I was right."
They're not all illicit, to be fair. They're about 60%.
Yeah, 60% illicit. But we asked if anyone had any messages for us for 100 episodes, and we've got a mountain of them. Shay says, thanks for giving me a reason to be interested in games media again, and by extension, video games as a whole. Was falling off hard before VGC gave me a light-hearted, fun, yet still 2/3 well-reasoned opinion show. Thanks, guys. 2/3 well-reasoned? Who do you think's
Doesn't sound good for you, does it?
It doesn't. I'm going to be honest, the gut check there was I forgive it. I don't really. I'm just the steady hand at the tiller. I don't give my opinion. I just let you bounce off each other. I'm Andrew Marr.
But was this message posted before or after Andy stormed into the Discord and told everyone the Nintendo games they like are shite? Because he might be referring to the Xenoblade debacle.
Yeah,
so it might be a reference to that, which we're not getting into again.
If it wasn't bad enough, people are leaving the Discord because Andy's dug. Now he's anti-Xenoblade.
His mouth.
He's anti-Xenoblade propaganda.
We don't want any Xenophobe fans in the Discord.
Keep my Xenoblade out your mouth.
No French, no Xenoblade. That's what it says under the VGC masthead.
The French love Xenoblade.
Xenoblade.
Anyway. There we go. There
we go. Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
cancelled.
It's all taken.
That's us done.
An hour and 40 minutes. Cyanide 1980. I feel like VGC, and especially the Patreon component, is an evolution of the old gaming magazine mentality. With all of print media suffering, the state of the industry, and the toxic mudslinging online, we need gaming news and analysis with a big old dose of integrity and taurine. We need VGC now more than ever. So cheers, guys, for all you do. Here's to many more. I love it when people say that VGC, the podcast, the Patreon, etc., is like a magazine. Who could have seen that coming with you two bastards at the tiller, eh?
When he says like you don't get the mudslinging online, was this before or after Andy went on Discord to talk about it? No, you're right though. That like the magazine mentality. We've said this a few times before, especially in the Patreon, is what we've been going for because that's our kind of bread and butter. That's what we started in. That's what we kind of long for, those days where the daft in jokes and kind of everyone knows the people involved because it's a more kind of it's more personable to feel like you know the people who are bringing you the content and bringing you the stuff, and kind of I don't like journalism when it's the writer looking down on the reader and saying
hard luck,
like saying from on high, this is here is your content. I like the idea that we're kind of on the same kind of level as them. It just happens that we're the ones providing them with the content and they're enjoying it, but everyone's kind of part of the same wee club.
If anything, we are lower than them. Have you seen the amount of times they've ripped the absolute shit out of us in that Discord?
I know, we take it. Like if we insulted them, they'd be like, "Well, I'll take my money, thanks very much," and go and like. But whereas we are open season.
Please, sir, can I have some more? Ryan Copain, Kurt's father, says reaching. God rest him. Ryan's still with us, even though he lives on an island. So he lives on an island in the west of Scotland. So he's probably listening to this somewhere in Spain because he's blown there. blown all the way to Spain. Lucky boy. The podcast reaching 100 episodes is massive. Getting anointed as Curtis Dat was quite nice. Well, it's your surname's fault. I don't really have favourite moments more than just overall enjoyment. From wild takes to the argument between Chris and Jordan, but that's our legacy after 100 episodes. And Andy and Jordan. What did me and Andy argue about? I mean, what did me and Andy argue
argued
about?
like a week or two after me and you argued. You seem to be the kind of the factor
one?
here that leads to the arguments. Is I don't remember what he's.
It was something about PlayStation IP, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what the
Andy
argument
was
was.
like, PlayStation have got absolutely no IP. They're all pish and shite.
I didn't say that. I just said it's not that. I was comparing it to someone, wasn't I? I was saying it's not actually that strong. Yeah, it was. We were talking about Astrobot.
Oh yeah, what's next for Astro? Yeah,
and I was saying that it's either already scraping the barrel by getting 5 PlayStation IPs to make a whole level about.
We can't get into this again. We can't.
Okay, mate.
Oh. To the guest list and the Pete Donaldson appearances and extra content, the website continues to be the top site for gaming news, previews, reviews, and opinion pieces. That opinion pieces section is just Chris String's diary at this point. Plus Andy's dog, shout out. As a non-energy drink consumer, it's quite funny to see you lads trying all these chemically created bull semen drinks, and the community that's thriving in here as well is such a lovely part of social media and the internet. Patreon content is generally worth paying for. Patreon.com/VideoGamesChronicle.
Their words, not ours.
Yeah. I would say it's questionably worth paying for. But the site and the original podcast alone would have been worth a few quid a month anyway. God bless VGC. God bless Astrobot. God bless Glasgow Celtic, and West Ham ain't too bad either. VGC, very good content. Thank you, Ryan. Ryan's one of the OGs. Ryan's name's been popping up in that Discord since that Discord was kicking a ball. I love that we've got to the point now where I recognize like all these people's profile pictures in the Discord. I know where they're from. I know their addresses. I send them abuse via physical mail. Such a nice group in there. In that Discord, like Blue Sky's all right, but my first port of call when I open social media now is to go to that Discord and see what absolute shite people are talking.
Definitely.
Lovely. Mr. Dave, being influenced by a parasocial relationship to get back into wrestling and energy drinks again, also Pokemon TCG. I audibly went, ooh, when I saw a Red Bull fridge full of flavors today. Gaming community is lovely and welcoming and no dicks. And it's nice to have a sensible adult conversation about similar interest without it becoming console wars.
That's the main thing about the Discord is that I saw an argument starting a few days ago and I was like, oh, here it is. This is where it all falls apart. And they had their debate, they had their argument, and at the end of it, they just got on with it, and they said, cheers for that. And I was like, oh, it's possible for people to have different opinions and then just kind of not block anyone and just be, don't worry about it. And then it was like, brilliant, that's what it should be. So that's, if you're not in the VGC Discord yet and you're not a wank, come on and kind of enjoy like nice, like kind of well-intentioned debate.
Shout out to that guy that came into the Discord thinking it was a Pokemon VGC Discord and asked us to Semi, some highlights include Ben Starr being chaotic and accepting an invite to officiate a wedding anytime. Jordan mentions Ethan Lawrence off the telly. Oh, Ethan Lawrence, actor. P.S. I've been listening to the start from when it was a video game podcast, one of the 2 podcasts I sincerely look forward to every week. What do we think the other podcast that he looks forward to every week? It's going to be that bloody back page, that bloody Joker podcast, the back page. Other podcast, Joe Rogan Experience, Andy, probably your favourite.
Listen, the man's making a living.
Still Game 7. I found out, by the way, sidebar, I found out that one of my pals plays in a 7-a-side game with Sanjeev Kohli, Naveed from Still Game.
Really?
Yeah, him on the pod. Met him at the BBC once, one of the nicest people I've ever met. He introduced himself, he was like, hello, I'm Sanjeev. I was like, I know who you are, mate. Everyone in Scotland knows who you are. I've been looking for a podcast like VGC for years. Everything else was always America-centric and just takes the games industry too seriously. You guys make it like listening to normal people who are insanely passionate and knowledgeable about games. The perfect combination. Added bonus that there are 2 good Celtic men on the pod. Moan the hoops. And
This is all quite self-indulgent, isn't it?
it's the 100th episode. I don't care. This is my gaff, and I'm letting these people speak their words. Andy, how do you feel about being the last bastion of good old-fashioned British games coverage?
Thanks very much.
It's a bit harsh on Chris Scully, isn't it?
No, VGC generally. Come on.
Oh, you're including yourself in that, are you?
Oh no,
that's very big.
There's people older than us. We you know, that gets picked up a lot, but it's not like we're the only ones.
Yeah, Keza McDonald, who I believe whose voice you've already heard in this podcast, is outdates us. So.
Keza McDonald, who is the very last person on the list to have sent her voice clip 1 hour ago while this podcast was live. So let's hope it's usable.
Well, maybe you didn't hear her voice.
She just, all you can hear is the wind. Yeah.
Help!
I'm stuck in Glasgow.
Anyway, congratulations.
Okay, so we were at that Yakuza event on a pirate ship, and we had to sit on beanbags for an hour. And beanbags are all well and good when you're like 18, but when you're getting up there, all these people try to get out of beanbags. It was really unedifying.
That's poor.
Cilla Black says, thanks for being here and creating this community.
God rest her.
God rest her, making us all feel part of it. I wasn't a massive podcast listener until I tuned in because of the Encyclopedia guy. Don't know who that is.
Let's be.
Who I once debated wrestling
The
on Twitter.
Encyclopedia guy.
Then you started up the Discord in the original form, and I stuck around. Not many Scottish boys in the scene. Andy's not bad either. Chris, you loved getting an argument on Twitter in your day. That's how I
did for a while. I luckily I don't so much anymore. There was a period during my angry period when I didn't have a full-time games journalism job and was angry at the world, when I would just pick fights with any prick just to have my voice heard. And then quickly realised that wasn't helping my career prospects. So I kind of calmed down a bit. But yeah, those days are beyond. But to be fair, it was only wankers that I engaged with. It wasn't like, if it was like normal conversations, I'd be like, yeah, okay. But if it was it was vigilante stuff. I was always hunting down the people.
You're the real Batman of Twitter.
My daughter's currently taunting me.
Good. Sticking with the finger up at you.
Next in the line. It's been it's fun. I was just wondering about, like, so this person's called Cilla Black. This is clearly not the real Cilla Black, because she said, when this Cilla Black character,
God rest her.
God rest her indeed. When this Cilla Black started reading my encyclopedias and then found VGC, they went, he's a journalist. There we go. You had to get that. What a clip.
But after the Cilla Black found the podcast, she considered it a nice surprise. That was a better joke, Chris, than your journalist.
What an era of television that the host would end with a song every night, and it was the same song every time. Well, no,
James, I like your idea. We're going to do it in a future podcast, maybe a Patreon one, predicting the next 100 episodes. Not each individual episodes, more to do with what's going on in games. Not Chris Scullion will get a haircut. Dusty Hat, I love the banter and anecdotes. To the guest hosts, Pete, Ben Starr, Ethan Lawrence, Andy's dog, and Chris String. Chris String isn't a guest host. He's our coffee boy. He does this for the love of the game. Here's to 100 more. And finally, Sam B. Not to get depressing, but I've been sick as a dog for the past couple of months. The community you've created here in the Discord, the Patreon, and chronicling your energy drink consumption.
Because of us.
Sorry. It has been a wonderful distraction. Some of my favourites include Jordan and Chris visiting Game On and Forgotten Worlds, Andy's TGA vlog, the massive alcoholic he is, and of course, Jordan's cat pissing on the telly. That's the highlight of my year. Congrats on 100 episodes. Thank you. That was all very lovely. Andy, I wanted to ask you, when I moaned at you to do this podcast originally, did you ever think we would do 100 of them, or did you think it would get binned long before that?
Probably I would have thought we would have binned it off. Yeah. Probably. But it's a lot of effort, right? Mm-hmm. We've had a kind of big community build around it, which is really fantastic. Because that's not something that you can engineer or game.
Yeah.
It's tough to do, to have like real people who enjoy what you're doing is fantastic. And, kind of Chris said it earlier, or someone said, it was one of the readers who said it earlier, right? That it does feel like going back to the magazine days a bit, because, when we lost our jobs like 10 years ago on on CVG, it really did feel like that era was gone because they closed. It wasn't just us; they like culled loads of the magazines, etc. And it just felt like people didn't want to pay for editorial anymore. And then 10 years later, it's gone full circle. That I think a lot of people understand that if they enjoy something, then they should back it. So no, it's brilliant. It's been a tough time in the games media and in the games industry the last year. But this is a real kind of bright light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. It's nice that it's lasted so long. This is the 4th podcast I've done on a professional basis, because I did the Official Nintendo Magazine podcast. Well, we did the Official Nintendo Magazine podcast, which lasted quite a while. Not 100 episodes though. We did the CVG off the record for a while when we were at CVG. We did a VGC podcast like a long time ago, and just because there wasn't a lot of guys in the team, it just we couldn't keep it going. And then obviously we've now done this one, and it really helps having Stack involved, because like it's great to have like a team behind us, like kind of helping with the production side of things.
Who know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. They know what they're doing. That is a really important factor, it turns out, is have people who know how podcasts work. It really helps. So yeah, it's great that this one's kind of continued and that it's built this community and it's gone long enough that we now have in-jokes and all that kind of stuff. I love all that. That's I'm just glad that people keep listening and seem to keep enjoying it.
It's genuinely the highlight of my week. It's my favourite thing we do by far. And it's the thing that apart from strangely the energy drink reviews, it's the thing that the most people come up to me at like events and message me online and say this is the thing that we know you for. And it's really, as someone that got into this via podcasts like Podcast Beyond and GameScoop and stuff like that, it was always a real ambition of mine to have a podcast that people were actually really into, and to do one for 100 episodes is mental. But we couldn't do 100 episodes without a few wee surprises. So for our very last messages from our friends, we hand you over to a podcast pioneer and a few other classic faces. We'll see you in a minute.
What's up, everybody? It's me, Greg Miller from Kinda Funny, here to wish the VGC podcast a happy 100th episode. I am, of course, in my car where I listen to the VGC podcast, and I just say, Andy, Jordan, you're killing it. What a great conversation. And then I say, Chris, shut up. Enough of you. No, I'm kidding. I love Chris too. Come on, 100 episodes. That is quite a bit of content to be put out there. And of course, it's been awesome to see you guys just getting better week after week, show after show. Obviously, the Patreon exclusive stuff you're doing, like reviewing Raw on Netflix, I'm all stoked about. And of course, having a Patreon in general and being ahead of the curve on that. The one thing I would give you advice, get VGC.com. Get VGC.com. Why am I still entering in videogameschronicle.com? Don't tell me VGC.com is taken. I'm aware. But have you thought of VGCplus.com? There's got to be a way to shorten this URL to where I don't have to, because I get a new browser and I type it in, it's like, it doesn't know where it's going. It's like, Other than that, I can't complain. VGC been killing it. And congratulations on 100 episodes. Jordan, you are very bald and very large, but I'm excited to see you whenever this all brings us back together. Andy and Chris, you stay away from me.
Marcus, do you remember when we started the Ramble and we took from our inspirations Joe Rogan, and the VGC, the video game podcast?
Jordan, Andy, and Chris.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We wouldn't be here without them.
Yeah,
or Joe.
Yeah,
well, that's why we've got pictures of them up in the office.
Yeah. They're very much like the Elvis to our Shaky Stevens.
We had a picture in the kitchen when we used to record in the kitchen. Yeah,
we used to throw darts at Jordan's head. On the dartboard, didn't we?
It's a hell of a target. And he always talks about it being big.
If you hit his bald head, it was 180.
If you mention people influenced by Elvis, you got to mention Sir Cliff Richard.
True, actually, yeah. So are we the Sir Cliff to their Elvis?
Clearly.
Hi everybody at CVG, this is Seb and Nico from Team Asobi, and we wanted to say congratulations on reaching 100 podcasts.
Dude, it's not CVG, it's VGC.
Oh, VGC? So like what? Video game computers? That doesn't make sense. Doesn't sound like proper Queen's English.
No. Video Game Chronicles. With a C, like Chronicles.
Chronicles is not a K? I thought it was a K, like in Clonoa and Katamari and Killer Instinct and Knack.
Nope, just to see as in, come on mate, can we just get on with it?
Wait. I know. Video Game Chronicles. Yes, of course. Andy Robinson, Jordan Midler, Chris Cullion. I love these guys.
There you go. Now for a message. Are we doing it or what?
Let's go.
Okay. From all of us at Team Asobi, happy 100th podcast to VGC.
CVG.
VGC.
You said CV.
No, VGC.
We said CVG.
Hello, 'tis I, Dominic Diamond, in a hat. The main reason we started Games Master in the 90s was so that we would create enough interest in the world of video games so there'd be enough of them that the VGC podcast would make it to 100 episodes 3 decades later. I mean, it wasn't the only reason. You know, we also wanted to hang around with celebrities and fly all over the world and take the piss out of Americans and generally expose television to a whole load of video game naughtiness. But the main reason was the VGC podcast. So well done. You guys have survived a lot. You survived COVID, global economic crisis, the seas boiling, the return of the Kraken, shrinkflation, 377,000 managers coming and going in the entity that was formerly known as Rangers FC, and whatever the fuck Elon Musk is doing these days. You've survived it all. Well done. Hang on a sec. Shut up! Fuck, Elon, I am not letting you out that cupboard until you learn how to behave. Listen, you can Roman salute as much as you like in there. You're just going to keep banging your fist off the wall, you dafty. Congratulations.
Told you we had something up our sleeve. Thank you very much for listening to 100 episodes, especially if you've listened to all 100 of them. God help you, hell mend you. You can send your questions, comments, and concerns to podcast@videogameschronicle.com, patreon.com/videogameschronicle for more podcasts, videos, the newsletter, any old stuff that we throw up there. A very special thank you to all of our friends: Greg Miller, Blessing Adeoye Jr., Jeff Gersman, Dan Reichert, Jeff Grubb, Lucy James, Timur Hussain, Christopher MacArthur-Boyd, Ethan Lawrence, Kez McDonald, Ben Starr, Nico Doucet, Seb Bruckner, the Football Bloody Rambo, Dominic Diamond, everyone who's ever been a guest, the one, the only Pete Donaldson, Tom Ivan, Andy Robinson, Chris Scullion, and most of all of you.
Your boys took a hell of a beating. Maggie Thatcher!
To close us out, as always, the incomparable, unassailable, unimpeachable Grant Kirkhope. Say goodbye, Chris.
Goodbye, Chris. I just heard a loud noise. This might be the end times. Goodbye, Chris.
Say goodbye, Andy.
Goodbye.
Thank you all for listening, watching. God rest you all. And we'll see you next week. Take it away, Mr. Kirkhope.
So apparently it's 100th episode of some podcast I've never heard of. VG something? I don't know what it is. And they've asked me to do a quick video to say congratulations. It's some ginger bloke who runs it. I mean, you know, when there's a ginger involved, you know, I'm not very hopeful really. So I guess congratulations on 100 episodes. I'm sorry that you're ginger. I know it's rough. That's it. Cheers.